morning, friends, and welcome to this edition of Expert Speak. Today, I'm delighted to have Ambassador Rudi Warjri. He is served with distinction in our foreign services, has a global experience. He was our ambassador to Colombia and several South American countries, apart from many other assignments in the Ministry of External Affairs. And he also carries a very, very deep knowledge, hailing from the Northeast, being himself from the Northeast. He is from Shillong, which is where the Asian Conference is also headquartered. And I'm so delighted, Rudi, to welcome you to this version of Expert Speak. Thank you so much for coming online.
Thank you very much, Sabia. In fact, for the introductory about me, but I must congratulate you and Asian Confluence for organizing this online video conferencing of this kind, which is an innovation by itself, taking full advantage of technology, and which I think it will become perhaps even the new normal in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. But Rudi, may I just start off by asking you, obviously, as you very correctly pointed out, we are entering a new normal. Life on the globe, in our country, in our state, it's not going to be the same. Yesterday, there was an IMF report of that they are predicting a W-shaped recovery, if not a V-shaped recovery. Because so this is going to be extending for some time, because once the lockdown ends, there are predictions of a surge in the number of cases as people start mingling again. So there are all kinds of speculations, which brings me to my core question: is that I'll start off on a region of great interest and central to the theme of Asian Conference, which is our northeastern region. How prepared do you think, while government is working tirelessly and they are doing as good a job as they can do, all governments are trying to do that. How prepared do you think is are we from a bottom-up perspective to deal with this kind of a pandemic? And where do you think are the major gaps that have been identified as part of the little experience we've had? And where do you think we are going? Should I repeat the question? Or you got
no, repeat the question.
Yeah.
Repeat the question.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, with special reference to the northeastern region of our country, how, while government is doing its bit to prevent and contain the pandemic, how ready is civil society, academia, the ground level institutions of governance? We have the local centers of governance in Meghalaya, for example. How prepared are the other institutions to deal with a challenge like this? And where do you see the major gaps coming up?
Okay, before I come to that, I think I would like to say something that I feel strongly that we need to learn from this whole existential experience of the COVID-19. I think the simple logic is that if I'm not safe, I won't be safe if my neighbor is not safe. Now, if you take this at personal level, family level, locality level, community level, district level, state level, national level, and all the way to global level, I won't be safe if my neighbor is not safe. In fact, I would like to introduce one metaphor that perhaps this is the time that social distancing, which we are talking about and we are practicing, should be replaced also by social closing mentally, intellectually, and spiritually.
Absolutely.
Now, coming to the Northeast, I would like to, I think that we have to prepare ourselves, our mental map, as well as that will give us the roadmap for the future. Now, let's take this entire time while we're combating COVID-19 as also a preparation time for the new normal situation when it resumes. Now, the way I look at it is like this. How should our mental map be? It should be a change in mindset. It should be a change in attitude. Maybe even an entire change in our philosophy of life. Absolutely. So it reminds me of this line which Albert Einstein said, you cannot solve a problem with the same mindset which creates it. So let's take it from there. Now, coming to the roadmap for the Northeast, now you're asking about whether our tools of governance that is already there, let's take, if you take it like Meghalaya Institute of Governance, is it prepared for it? I don't think they are really prepared for this kind of situation. I mean, a post-COVID-19 situation, because all our institutions are basically meant for a normal situation. And the question of preparing for a post-COVID-19 aftermath is totally different. But as I told before, this is exactly the time where we can apply our minds thoroughly to prepare for that when the whole normal situation is restored and resumed. Now, I'd like to say that the way I look at it, what should be the roadmap for Northeast? I would like to take just three things, because basically these are the three areas which I think, which really are very visible and impact enormously on us personally, as a community, at all levels, and the system. Let's take agriculture. Why I'm saying agriculture? Because this is where we get our food.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I would think that perhaps all these institutions like Meghalaya Institute of Governance or even the similar institution in other states should work out as to how we have to deal with the question of supplying food change in future. I am advocating that perhaps we should build up on the existing local markets at all levels, number one. Number two, maybe if you take it at the international border, be it with Bangladesh or with Myanmar or with Nepal or with Bhutan or the Northeast, let's build up on the hat concept in a big way. There already have been these hats, village hats, all through, which have been there in the past. And some of them have continued to do so with or without the approval of respective governments. Let's build up on them. I think it's very important to understand how far these people really have to survive at the local level, especially at the borders, because they are the most remote from the supply chain at the capital, the state capital, or at the district capital. So that is very important to me. Now, looking at the other area which I'm thinking very seriously is about the youth. I see now that most of the youth, now all through these years, large number of our youth who have acquired some education from the Northeast have migrated to either to Bangalore or to Delhi or to Mumbai and other capitals of India for jobs. And with this COVID-19, large number of them have also returned back. I think our respective governments here in Northeast have to have a plan now what to do with these youth. They are a human capital, they are a human resource, they have some qualifications, they have some experience, they have exposure this is something which we can capitalize. Now, I think some, like in Meghalaya, I'm told that there has been some, even before this whole thing happened, some movement have taken place with Intel, for instance, to give some kind of training to our people, to our youth. And I think, but it's become now a policy for the state itself to utilize youth, human capital in the Northeast who have had experience and exposure and qualified in other states in India because there were no jobs in the Northeast. Now most of them have returned back. What can we do with them? They will certainly look for jobs. But how do the state governments prepare them? Now, I said one of the, I mentioned that in Meghalaya itself, I know some movement has taken place with Intel to do something about the youth in terms of helping them to come up with some startups, for instance. And another thing which I listened and read yesterday was that Mukesh Ambani of Reliance, he has signed with Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook, for e-commerce in India. And I think there'll be a demand for youth talent for this, for instance. So this opening is something, but my point is that government should be able to see this as an advantage and take the opportunity to prepare these youths for the future, how they can be employed, how can they be absorbed in these new ventures. So this is how I look at it. Now the third one, which has been the mainstay of most of our states, especially in Meghalaya, as even Arunachal, has been tourism. But this is something which I think I won't venture to talk about it because till everything becomes normal, I would give it, nothing will happen in tourism the way I look at it till everything becomes normal, because the last thing, traveling will be the last thing people will do it, because I think for everybody else will think about survival, be it individually, be it personally, be it corporate sector, be it the government itself, is survival, and tourism will be the last thing. So I would like to focus governments here, the institutions, to focus more on agriculture and youth.
Sure, Rudi. Thank you. I couldn't agree more with you. And I have two questions in follow up, which is, you mentioned about the youth, and you also mentioned about a change in mindset and a change of the way things are done. A reorientation of how we are looking at opportunities and challenges. What kind of capacity building do you think that the youth of the Northeast need for this? And I'll relate your other point of the big companies such as Reliance and Intel coming in. Yes, these are mega companies, mega giants. They have a huge capital reserve. But what about? But I'm sure you will agree that unless we tap into the local realities and the local the local strengths, even these companies will be just there'll be a top-down approach maybe. So really, to make it thriving bottom up, what kind of capacity building is needed amongst the youth, and what kind of institutions are needed to do that?
Okay, now, okay. Before, I would like to approach it this way systematically. As far as the state is about the capacity building, I think immediately now we should, all these institutions like the State Institute of Governance. In fact, even this existing academic institutions like, let's say, the universities, all those, in fact, should be involved in this whole concept of capacity building for the future. And as I said, let's say you're right in the sense that these big corporates like Reliance and others will not come easily to the Northeast unless something they can see. Okay. Now, so the question is, we have to build up capacity building. We have to do capacity building, utilizing all these academic institutions which are already in place today, be it the universities, be it the IIM itself here, be it the Institute of Governance in different states. They should come up with some kind of a new program which can train the youth, because these youth are already here. I think some kind of a database we need to have about these youth who are already in place. How do we go about it? I think I will personally ask the director of the Meghalaya of Governance to do it, and I will personally, in fact, write to him to come out with some kind of a plan how to really train people for the future. In fact, to be more precise, the advantage of these youth is that they're already exposed in state capitals in India. And the question, as I said, if e-commerce has to take place by, let's say, Reliance Mart or whatever you call it, they will need people at the field at different levels, be it managerial or even office staff, but people who are already exposed, the youth who are already exposed with some experience in India, will be easily oriented towards new scenario. So this is something I will communicate to the Institute of Governance in Meghalaya itself to start with, and to build up a data bank of this youth, and then something we can do for other states also. So I'm going to do this. Now, Sabia, I want to say something about I want to say something about what the central government should do now for Northeast. Now, even in normal times, the more challenging thing which we have been wanting to talk about under the look or policy is one area of infrastructure for the central government to do. Okay, to connect to connect all the highways of the states. There should be interstate connectivity in a big way. This is the time. Apart from that, to complete all this connectivity by road, I'm talking is to, let's say, to Myanmar, Bangladesh both, and even to Nepal and Bhutan. Concentrate. The central government should focus on that, because it will take some time before any other way movement of things, be it railways or even flights for that matter. But the road, I think some kind of emergency measures need to be done by some government to overcome any hurdles, be it bureaucratic or anything at the field level, with state governments to complete this road as quickly as possible, interstate as well as the trilateral highway with Myanmar, which is, to me, it will be definitely the most part of our future with Myanmar and ASEAN as a whole. And this is the advantage, the opportunity for the central government to come out with some emergency measures and complete that road and make it as expeditious as possible. That is one thing I want to make a point. And otherwise, all these things will be held up, will go back, because this whole experience of COVID-19 is putting us back. Maybe even 5 years, even 10 years, who knows, even more than that. So we have to do something at least in one area, and that is we start completing this road in a big way, all this road connectivity. I think it's very important.
Sure.
It will be to facilitate not only the movements of whatever goods, be it agriculture, be it anything else that come out in the future, and even tourism for that matter in future in a big way. And because this is I think this is the time when every
Yes,
I said the digital connectivity in the Northeast is very poor, so that's why we have to address this. Okay.
Absolutely.
And anyway, I said about Myanmar. Yes. If we can do something with Myanmar through this time now by cooperating about the anti-COVID fight, it'll be easier for us also to move on the BIMSTEC part of it. It'll become another gesture and makes us us more space regarding the success of BIMSTEC in future. So
Sure.
I would apply that same, that same analogy to BBIN as well. So this is the time really, because this is the time when countries really appreciate who's helping whom. So
Right.
I think any kind of gesture to Myanmar will be good. Besides, we are doing it to other countries. Why not Myanmar also? Okay,
Sure.
and that would help the Northeast in future, because whatever. So it's the Northeast in future will have our integration, economic integration lies with Bangladesh and Southeast Asia.
Sure. Sure. Couldn't agree with you more, Rudi. My next question, because the connection is a bit flaky, so I just want to quickly move to the next question, which is that you pitched for connectivity, which I think is so very important, both physical and digital connectivity. And you pitched for the Meghalaya Institute of Governance, or the institutes of governance, to invest more in effort and time and resources into the capacity building of youth. What kind of capacity building do you think is needed in the district councils, for example, which is another tier of government which we have unique to the region in the Northeast, where we have many states under unique provisions of the constitution, such as the 6th schedule, for example?
Good question. In fact, you see the saddest part about the district council, even though constitutionally it's bodies, but in principle that's a very good thing, but functionally they have not been very successful. So now that you are raising this, it's a good point, but the local level in terms of capacity building, the better. Specifically about district councils, you see, in fact, what other areas basically they have to be concerned with? They have to be concerned with forests, with rivers, with any produce from the forests, produce from the rivers, and to some extent even mining activities also. So now we have to be, now this is where entrepreneurship comes in. Do the district councils now have that capability of giving that kind of capacity building? No, they don't have. And this maybe is the time, in fact, is the time to make them more functional. Now, how do we do that? This is exactly why maybe we'll have to relook at this whole thing in the constitution itself about the 6th schedule part of it, where the district councils come under. And then the idea is not to really do anything, abolish or anything like that, in my view, is to make them more functional. And then to clear out ambiguities between, especially where there is a need for, where is the state government draws his line, and where the district council have to start, and not doesn't end with district council all the way to the darbars, all the way to the country, about their exercising of powers, and which goes to responsibility as well, even accountability for that matter. This fundamentally, then it's a question of relook at the constitution itself. We need to do that, and I think we have to create channels and where we can have a debate and discussion on this subject. We need to do that. Then only if you are talking about the district council being more functional and being able to build up capacity building for the people.
Right. I want to ask you one last question. Where do you see the role of institutions like the Northeastern Council, for example, which are regional planning bodies under a provision of the constitution? They have the mandate. Do you see that them playing a major role in the future? NEC is headquartered in Shillong, but
okay, now yes, certainly. In fact, the Northeast Council has been there for a long time. They have the human capital, they have infrastructure, they have the network, they have the experience on the ground, and I think we should make full use for it. The whole thing about all these, be it district council or northeastern councils or any councils, is to make it as functional as per the mandate, and they are not driven by sheer politics or political expediency from time to time. I think that is the fundamental point I want to make. They are given all the latitude to function, and not things being dictated from Delhi, be it from the ministry in Delhi, or a department in Delhi, or for anybody else. And I think because that applies ultimately not only for the Northeast, it applies for the whole of India for that matter. This whole thing about, that's why I appreciate very much this whole initiative by Prime Minister to have these repeated meetings with the Chief Minister.
Yeah.
Lead to real cooperative federalism in India.
Sure.
And the strength of India, in my the Prime Minister, is to me is very commendable. I really appreciate and support it. This initiative of talking to the chief ministers from time to time, and I hope this practice of doing it doesn't only apply of fighting COVID-19, but it applies in future also. A collegial structure and the real cooperative federalism, which the Prime Minister was talking about it in the very beginning when he became Prime Minister, can become functional in a good way, and it will be successful not only for India or for the Northeast, and it will be actually the core strength of India will depend on that. That's my view.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rudi. I think you touched on points which are so fundamental and so ground up driven, that need to be addressed. I'll end with my very last. I wanted to just a reaction from you. What can institutions like the think tanks, like Asian Confluence and the civil societies in the region, how can they contribute in this building of this narrative of changing mindsets, enhancing cooperative federalism? How do you see the role of civil society and think tanks coming up?
Sabia, the fact about Asian Confluence is that because it's the only think tank which of that nature exists in the Northeast. So in fact, a lot of work, there's a lot of experience, there's a lot of data in the Asian Confluence, and they should continue. If you have done, it should be not only 100%, but be 100%, but even more, in fact, because you will have a lot of work. So Asian Confluence need to play a crucial role, and civil society as a whole. I was talking about social capital, how it is played in this anti-COVID fight, and all the more that it becomes part of the institution and institutionalize itself. So that is I would like to say in as my final words.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Warjri, for that, for those very perceptive remarks. And we will be sharing this video online, and we'll be making small reports, and we are making these policy briefs and sending it to some policymakers also. So hope that in the rounds of government, these will be at least useful to people who are dealing with the respective subjects. On that note, I again wish to thank you for coming online, and looking forward to engaging further with you to take things forward.
Asian Conference to do even much more work now, because we need it to bring civil society and use the third space as much as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.